Hello everybody and welcome. It is Visage here with another casting exercise video, and today we're going to be looking at a game between Schalke and Origin in the LEC Week 9 Day 1. Now, what we're going to be doing is we've loaded the game up to 9 minutes and 30 seconds. And just looking at the still image of the screen here, with all the information that it shows, we are going to come up with three different points to talk about, practice them, and get them into better points, showing you hopefully the first take of them and the last take where I've done some improvement. So, hopefully, this will be useful for you. And yeah, let's get to it. The first point that I noticed when I opened this game up, the thing that stood out to me the most was the jungle pick. So Schalke have gone for an Elise, a very proactive, very early game focused jungler. Really relies on her early ability to cycle through all the different spells that she has, like the 6 different spells, to catch out and gank enemy lanes, giving them an advantage. As you can see, Schalke so far haven't managed to do this. And my first point was entirely based around this. So this is my first attempt at making that point. I haven't done any off screen, and I made a few notes myself. Just give them a quick read over. So on 5, 4. So looking back to the draft phase, Schalke picked themselves up an Elise, and we did mention how that was going to be a really vital pick to get off the ground in this early laning phase, getting in there and securing some advantages for Schalke. Unfortunately for them, they haven't managed to do so, as you can see by the fact that they have no kills and a death in almost every lane. Going forwards, this likely means that they're not going to be able to throw any of their power around in the mid-game stages over the next 10 minutes, and it's actually likely to be Origin that are going to be in the driving seat with the proactive plays. Done. Okay, so that's the first point. We'll have a listen back to that and see how it compares to once I've done a little bit of improvement in a few minutes. Right, so I've had a little listen back to that first attempt at the point that I made, and I've done a couple of little notes and brought up the main problems that I thought it had with it. The first of which, fairly obvious, it needs to be more concise. More concise, less repetition, just getting to the point and keeping the structure and the flow of the point a lot clearer. Now, I do think that the pacing and the way that I spoke wasn't too bad, but again, that could be improved. It was the conciseness that was really a big issue. Cutting down on those extra words and just making it clearer. So if we said that in a game, it wouldn't take too long. That's the first thing. Second thing, the conclusion was very, very weak. It didn't really tell you anything. It was very vague and very general, and just always round it could have been improved on. So, those are the two main things that over the next few recordings I'm about to do, I'm going to try and improve on, try and work towards, so that in the final version, you'll see a noticeable difference. Right, this is going to be the third attempt at recording this point. Let's see how it's going to go this time. 5, 4, 3. So we mentioned in the draft phase about the Elise pick on the side of Schalke and how it was vital that she would bring success in the early game through strong ganks, getting her laners ahead. Now, unfortunately for them, that hasn't materialised, as we can see by Schalke having 0 kills and a death in every single lane. What this is going to mean going forwards is that Schalke aren't going to have the power they'd hoped to leverage around the map and force any plays, and it will in fact be Origin in the driving seat looking to dictate the pace of the game through this mid-game section. Okay, that was the third attempt. Let's see how that went. After listening to that third attempt back, I was pretty happy with it. I thought that I'd improved, it still wasn't perfect, but I'd improved a lot on the two main areas that I wanted to talk about, the conciseness of the point and the actual conclusion. Now, I felt that I did repeat Schalke a few too many times, but it wasn't too much to be a problem. Like, it was just keeping the focus there. I felt, at least. Um, I did feel it was a lot more concise. I felt like I went into the correct level of depth, saying how Elise was strong in the early game and would get the lanes at advantage, but without going into like all the ins and outs of why. That's all you need to know from a glancing point. I felt the pacing was good, and more importantly, I felt it was really clear following the point throughout its like from the start, the initial point, the evidence, and then the conclusion and what that meant throughout the entire thing compared to the first attempt at it. Lastly, the conclusion. I know it was still like it's still a bit of a vague thing. It's not saying that like this is going to happen because of this kind of thing, but as something looking forwards, it set up an expectation that Origin would be the ones that would be setting the pace of the game, being more proactive, and Schalke would have to respond to them a bit more. So, as a conclusion, I did feel it was strong enough for the kind of point I was making. And yeah, I did feel like it was a decent improvement over the first attempt as well. So, we're going to leave that one there and move on to our second different point we're going to be making. Moving on to our second point now, and I've noticed that Schalke have a lot of hard engage tools on their side. They've got the Jarvan ultimate, which is point and click. They have the Lissandra route and the ultimate, which is point and click. They have the Alistair headbutt pulverize combo, the Elise cocoon, all of which Upset can follow up on the Kaiser. So my second point is going to be how Schalke have a lot of hard engage to initiate and activate fights. Evidence is going to be, what I just listed, and then the expectation from this is going to be that Schalke can claw their way back into the game by isolating targets and creating picks, using this hard engage to wipe out those targets and generate some more gold and get them back in that way. That's the basis of the second point, and I'm going to do the first attempt cast of it in 5, 4, 3. Looking at the sides here, you can see that Schalke has a lot of hard engage tools. You've got the point and click Jarvan ultimate, the Lissandra ultimate, the headbutt pulverize combo from the Alistair, and the cocoon of Elise. All of these can be followed up on by the Kaiser as well, as long as it's some form of crowd control. Now, Schalke can use these hard engage tools to isolate members of Origin, trying to control the vision, split them up, and picking them off one by one as a means to claw their way back into the game and generate themselves some gold. Done. So that's the first attempt at that point. I did not like that at all. I thought that was very, very poor. Just like listening to myself saying it. But we're going to have a couple of listens, a couple of retakes, and see what we think after that. Okay, so listening back to that first attempt, I was not very happy with it at all. The main problems, we'll just dive straight into them. The same thing as the first point. The conclusion was very poor, but specifically with this one, I had kind of an idea of how I wanted it to flow, and it was all in completely the wrong order. So that definitely needs to be tightened up on to lead naturally to that conclusion and be punchy when it arrives. Secondly, there was way too much detail. Like, I went through all of like the different tools, saying like the Lissandra ultimate, the Jarvan ultimate, the Elise cocoon, the Alistair, and then saying that Kaiser can follow up on all of them if it's CC. Like, that can be cut down a hell of a lot just to make it more concise and more understandable. Like, so you don't get lost as the listener, trying to keep up with all of this on screen. So they're the two main points I think I need to work on there. General, tightening it up as well. But I think if those two areas get reined in and improved on, I think we might be on to a decent point. So let's see what we can do. Right, so we're going in for attempt number 5 here. This one is taking a little bit longer to get right, but it'll be worth it. So, 5, 4, 3, one avenue Schalke could look at going forwards to try and get back into the game is their abundance of engage tools. They have the Jarvan, the Lissandra, the Alistair, all of which can be followed up on by Kaiser. Now, if they play very smart and they get control of the vision in certain parts of the enemy's jungle, set up dark zones that Origin have to move through dangerously, they can isolate members and pick them off one by one. This will net Schalke a nice amount of gold fairly safely and give them a good way to get back into this game. So I think we hit it with attempt number 5 there. And we improved on a lot of the points that I raised initially when I first tried to make the point about being more concise, not going into too much detail to drown people out and bore them, and getting the conclusion nailed on in a way that would make sense. So, starting with the conclusion, we managed to get it to go through. We told the audience how Schalke were going to have to play, what this was going to enable them to do, and what the payoff for it would be. We said that they need to use their engage tools to isolate the enemy in dark zones they'd set up, getting them gold and back into the game. Very easy to follow, very just nice and concise and going through. Secondly, when I was talking about the engage tools, I said initially I wasn't happy with how much detail I went into, and it was a bit too long-winded. But the whole basis of the point is around these engage tools. You can't not talk about them. Like you need to mention what they are. In this fifth attempt, I feel like I struck the balance nicely between mentioning what they were and going through them all. So I missed out the Elise Cocoon, but I mentioned all the main ones and how they could be followed up on with a Kaiser, but without going into too much depth that people would get lost and would lose track of the point. So I do think I tightened up on those two main areas that I identified and improved that point going into the fifth attempt there. Um, but yeah, that's going to be it for the video today. I know I said I was going to do 3 points, but I wanted to keep the video around 10 minutes long, kind of thing, under that length, without going over too much. So we're going to leave it at 2 for now. Please do let me know what you think as well. Hopefully you can see the difference between the first attempt and the final one for both points. If you can't, let me know what I needed to improve on more, what you think I needed to change, what I need to work on still, and what you thought to this kind of exercise and this video style in general. I don't know if it was going to work, like how useful it would be, but I thought it would be interesting to kind of show my thought process and how I go about doing these exercises without literally recording me for like 2 hours while I do it. So do leave a comment, say something to me on Twitter. The link will be in the description. And yeah, for now, good luck on Summoner's Rift, everyone. Bye bye.